member of the Story and Song community, or if you're a member of the Be Well, Serve Well community, you are welcome here. And I want to tell you just a little bit more about this series. I love to read. I'm sure you do too, especially those who are part of the Story and Song community. And I hope to inspire you to read some books that have impacted my life, my wellness, my own wellness journey, but also the work that I do, guiding clients, teaching workshops. Books that you can find at Story and Song on their website or in the store, and I hope you'll look for them. I hope that they will, that what I share will whet your appetite to go hunt down these books. But let's talk for a minute about what it might mean to be well read. Being well read by nature means being curious, being informed, being willing to learn and to grow, being willing to be present as books, maybe a favorite book or a new book, begin to speak to you. And as in the words of Anne Lamott, who's an author that's also at Story and Song, Anne Lamott says, to allow the whisper of pages to speak to you in a deep place, transforming your life, healing you maybe in some ways that you didn't know you needed to be healed. You know, that's the power of books. It's the power of the gift of books. And to me, it's the power to be well read. Today, and when we gather in 2 weeks on September 24th, I'm going to share with you 2 books by Dr. Michael Gregor. 2 books that are on the shelves there, How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. First, a little bit about the author. Dr. Michael Gregor is a physician, an author, and an internationally recognized speaker on nutrition, food safety, and public health issues. He's also a fellow with the American College of Lifestyle Medicines, and he founded and oversees a nonprofit called nutritionfacts.org, where he offers science-based nutrition information through daily videos and articles where he digs into the latest nutrition research. He really separates the wheat from the chaff, I think, and he helps calm down all the chatter that's out there about good food, bad food, healthy this, unhealthy that. But best of all, he cares. He cares deeply. And even just reading a few pages into his book, you can tell that Dr. Gregor cares deeply about the well-being of all of us. Now here's part of the reason why. Michael Gregor was just a little boy when his grandmother was sent home in a wheelchair to die. Diagnosed with end-stage heart disease, the doctor said she'd had so many bypass surgeries, they'd run out of plumbing parts. She was confined to a wheelchair with crushing heart pain. The doctors just told her there was nothing else they could do. Her life was over at age 65. Or was it? Michael's grandmother loved life. She loved her family. She loved her grandchildren. She went home, but she didn't go home to die. She started researching, and she found a program clear on the other side of the country. She made her way there, and she entered a program where, among other protocols, everyone was placed on a plant-based diet. Now, they wheeled her in, but 3 weeks later, she was walking 10 miles a day. 10 miles. And yes, she walked out several months later. Thanks to a healthy eating lifestyle, a plant-based, plant-strong eating lifestyle, her heart disease was completely reversed, healed, and she went on to live 31 more years, dying at the age of 96. She lived those years with her family and with her grandchildren, including, yes, her grandson, Michael, who would grow up to become a doctor so that he could help other people heal as he watched his grandmother heal. Her grandson, who would grow up to write a book dedicated to his grandma, Frances Gregor. That book, How Not to Die. Now, he has a co-author, Greg Stone, and you may have read one of the books that Greg Stone wrote. He has written numerous books around the plant-based nutrition lifestyle, and one is #1 New York Times bestseller, Forks Over Knives. I'm sure you've heard of that. He's also co-writer of the Engine 2 Diet and co-writer of Living the Farm Sanctuary Life. I like that title a lot. Let's begin. In the Judeo-Christian scriptures, in Ecclesiastes, some of you may be familiar with these words: to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die. As sure as we all live, we will all surely someday die. Dr. Gregor knows this. Still, he titles his book, How Not to Die. But he's not talking about a secret to immortality. He's literally talking about the how. He firmly believes that how we die is largely up to us and the choices we make every day that either hinder our health and invite illness or strengthen our wellness and invite wellness, longevity. Choices we make that create health, joy, and generosity. Now, early in the book, it's clear that Dr. Gregor is pretty baffled by his own profession. He chose to attend Tufts University because it had and offered the most nutrition training. But still, it was only 1% of the overall curriculum. And he states that there's a disparity in Western medicine between prevention on one hand and the mere mitigation of suffering, and that he calls that a metaphor for modern medicine. Rather than pop a pepper, like a bell pepper, we pop a pill. It's what we expect to do. And he aptly says, a doctor a day may keep the apples away. He's a pretty clever writer. I think you'll enjoy what he has to offer. Dr. Gregor shares that he and his fellow students in med school were taught not to treat the root causes of disease, but just to treat the consequences. He uses a great metaphor for this. It's mopping up the floor around an overflowing sink rather than just reaching up and turning off the faucet. But he goes on to say, and I want to quote here, drug companies are more than happy to sell you a new roll of paper towels every day for the rest of your life, while the water continues to gush. As global spending on prescriptions surpasses $1 trillion annually, people have largely become convinced that certain diseases, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, are incurable, and that our genes are our destiny. How Not to Die is Dr. Gregor's response to this mindset. It's not a sign of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And yet we are. In copious science-based detail, this author outlines the power of food not only to prevent disease, but in many cases to reverse disease. He offers some fascinating information as he lays the groundwork for his premise that how we die is largely up to us. And I want to read a little bit from the introduction. Medical anthropologists have identified several major eras of human disease, starting with the age of pestilence and famine, which largely ended with the Industrial Revolution, or the stage we're in now, the age of degenerative, and get this, man-made diseases. This shift is reflected in the changing causes of death over the last century. In 1900, in the United States, the top 3 killers were infectious diseases, pneumonia, tuberculosis, and diarrheal diseases. Now, the killers are largely lifestyle diseases, heart disease, cancer, chronic lung disease. The emergence of these epidemics of chronic disease was accompanied by dramatic shifts in dietary patterns. How we eat impacts how we live and how we die. We're together today in the midst of a pandemic. Gregor writes of an ongoing pandemic of chronic disease that's evidence of a near universal shift in dietary patterns, dominated, you know this, by highly processed foods and animal foods. More meat, more eggs, more dairy, more oils, sugar, flour, refined grains. And he offers Asian countries as an example. For the Asian people, a shift from their traditional plant-based eating lifestyles to a more Western diet, the standard American diet, also brought a dramatic shift and a sharp rise in diet-related Western chronic diseases. Again, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, cancer. We exported our way of eating, and we exported our way of dying. The good news that Dr. Gregor offers with passionate detail is this, and I want to quote, "Unlike with medications, there isn't one kind of diet for optimal liver function and a different diet to improve our kidneys. A heart-healthy diet is a brain-healthy diet, is a lung-healthy diet." I'd say he's making how not to die pretty simple. That heart-healthy, brain-healthy, lung-healthy, life-healthy diet is a whole food, plant-based diet. And he states clearly, and this is a distinction I make as well, this is not a vegetarian diet. This is not a vegan diet. A vegan can eat a potato chip, and a vegan can eat some of those vegan food-like concoctions that only feed our penchant for Western taste. I'm reminded of vegan sausage, for example. Gregor advocates for an evidence-based diet, and in his own words, again I quote, "The best available balance of science suggests that the more whole plant foods we eat, the better." You got to know, I only have one word to add to that. Amen. I believe that this book can be powerful in changing hearts, minds, taste buds, and in turn lifestyles for the prevention of disease and the reversal of disease even after diagnosis. If you want to do what I suggested in July and be informed, be well informed, this book, as big as it is, 412 pages of content and 133 pages of footnotes, despite all that, this book is easy to digest. It's divided into 2 sections and it's structured in such a way that it is easily digestible. Part 1 provides a thorough, detailed analysis of the 15 leading causes of death in America, from number 1 heart disease to brain diseases like stroke and Alzheimer's to various cancers. He even has a chapter on the all-important number 13 leading cause of death in America, suicidal depression. Now, as a hint, you're going to want to read chapter 15. It's actually the number 3 leading cause of death in America, but he saves it for last. I think you'll see why, and I think it might surprise you. In each chapter, Dr. Gregor offers a description of the disease followed by specific nutrient profiles that will benefit that particular disease, either for prevention or, as I mentioned, for reversal. Because of this straightforward format, I recommend having this book as a reference point. If a friend or family member, or if you are diagnosed with one of these life-threatening diseases, you can study that section, taking guided steps to heal. If you're one, like me, who likes to take food to that friend or family member who's suffering in some way, you'll be guided in exactly the foods to take that will help your friend or family member heal. And if you fear that you might be susceptible to one of these life-threatening diseases, you can read that section too and begin to take proactive steps to strengthen your body for prevention. You can begin to learn how not to die. Let me give you some examples. Prostate cancer. Skip the milk and add in some flaxseed to your eating lifestyle. High blood pressure. Hibiscus tea works better than the latest hypertensive drugs. And remember, this is a doctor giving us this guidance. And without the side effects. Asthma. This is one of the most chronic diseases among our children, and it's largely preventable with a healthier diet of a few added extra fruits and vegetables and the elimination of animal foods, especially dairy. Don't our children deserve our best? I think so. Is the impact of coffee on liver diseases positive, or is it negative? Be well read. Read the book. Is the impact Which animal food is associated with the highest increased risk of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma? Be well read. Read the book. Which has the greatest impact on reducing kidney disease, kidney stones? Is it a low calcium diet, or is it a diet that's low sodium, low animal? Which has more antioxidants, iceberg lettuce or salmon? Which animal proteins are the most acid producing? Cheese, beef, pork, chicken, or fish? Be well read. Read the book. And I like this one. Do athletes know the best juice to drink for the highest performance? Beats me. Read the book. Two more just for fun. What color would Coca-Cola be without the added phosphorus? And what's the purple cabbage test? You know the answer by now. It's time to be well read. And this book is a great place to begin. My hope is that you will want this book for your shelves, for your own research, and for your own health. I can't begin to unpack every chapter in 412 pages. We'd be here long past dinner time. But I would like to take a minute and share a few stories with you. And I want to say something about that too. This isn't just a science-packed book. It is that. But Dr. Gregor is wise enough to also share stories of real people living real lives like yours and mine, experiencing real healing. Diabetes is prevalent in our society. It's been called the Black Death of the 21st century in terms of its global reach and devastating health impacts. Gregor puts it like this, and again I want to read. Instead, wrong page. Instead of the bubonic plague, the pathological agents in obesity and type 2 diabetes are identified as high-fat, high-calorie diets. And instead of fleas and rodents, the causes are advertisements and inducements to poor lifestyles. More than 20 million Americans are currently diagnosed with diabetes, a tripling of cases since 1990. And at this rate, the CDC predicts that 1 in 3 Americans will be diabetic by mid-century. Currently in the United States, diabetes causes about 50,000 cases of kidney failure, 75,000 lower extremity amputations, 650 cases of lost vision, and about 75,000 deaths each year. Now, I am a whole food, plant-based eater. And when I went that direction, and still, this is several years, 8 years ago, I still have people that think I have an extreme eating lifestyle. I don't find that extreme. What I find extreme is 75,000 lower extremity amputations, lost feet, lost toes, lost limbs. That's extreme. But there's good news. Dr. Gregor begins the chapter on diabetes with a wonderful story, a story about Milan. Milan was 30 years old when she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. She'd struggled with obesity all her life and had been through the highs and lows of yo-yo dieting. She tried nearly every fad diet, and just as quickly as the weight went off, the weight came back on. But diabetes wasn't a stranger to her. Her parents, her brothers, that's plural, and her aunt were all diabetic. So she just figured it was inevitable. It's age-related, it's genetic. There was nothing she could do, or so she thought. Milan's initial diagnosis came back in 1970, and she lived as a diabetic for 2 decades. Then, in the 1990s, she switched to an entirely plant-based eating lifestyle. Completely turned her life around. Today, her energy levels are better than ever. She looks and feels younger, and she's finally been able to maintain a healthy weight. More than 4 decades after being diagnosed with diabetes, Milan, now in her 70s, is fit as a fiddle, he writes. She even teaches high-intensity Zumba classes. I'd like to take one of her classes. She didn't find some wonder drug or trademark diet. She simply chose to eat a healthier diet. Here's another story. This actually a portion of a letter that Dr. Gregor received from a man named Dan. Dan was a retired NFL player, and Dr. Gregor met him when he was 42. He was already on 3 medications, 3 for high blood pressure, and his doctors had just told Dan that his kidneys were starting to show damage from those medications. Side effects, right? So Dan asked Dr. Gregor, what supplements can I take to offset those side effects? You can probably guess what our good doctor advised. And here's what was in the letter. Again, I want to read this. Well, Dr. Gregor, I went home that night and we cleaned house. We got rid of everything that didn't grow out of the ground. Everything processed. And guess what? Over the next year, I lost my beer belly and the high blood pressure. Life is so much better without those medications. They made me feel so tired all the time. And my kidney function is back to normal. It makes me mad that no one told me sooner and that I had to feel so bad before I felt so much better. Michael Gregor has written this book so that we don't all have to feel so bad before we feel so much better. We can begin today to impact our health outcomes and to learn how not to die. What a gift. Now, as I mentioned, there's a chapter on each of the 15 leading causes of death in America, and the book is organized in such a way you can pick it up, read a little, digest a little, put it down, pick it up again, read a little, digest a little bit more, and continue to be well read as you learn how not to die. There's a chapter on lung diseases, blood cancers, kidney disease, breast cancer, Parkinson's disease, just to name a few. But I suspect that you, listening today, know someone who is suffering from one of these. It's time for all of us to benefit from this wide and deep offering of wellness, learning how not to die. Now, if part 1 is filled with descriptions and scientific-based exploration of the 15 leading causes of death in America and the role that a whole food, plant-based eating lifestyle can have on those diseases, part 2 is designed to offer an answer to a question we actually talked about the last time we were together. What should I eat? What should we eat? More specifically, Gregor is responding to a question that he's asked quite often. Dr. Gregor, what do you eat? Now, confessing that he has more of a grease tooth than a sweet tooth, I'm a sweet tooth gal, the author further confesses that he didn't change his eating lifestyle. He didn't clean it up. Despite his grandma's amazing recovery through a whole food, plant-based eating lifestyle, until he came across a 1990 publication outlining the Lifestyle Heart Trial that was led by Dr. Dean Ornish and his team, that provided scientifically demonstrable evidence that heart disease can, in fact, be reversed. His grandma's story wasn't just an anomaly. From that point forward, he was sold and he evolved into the nutrition nerd that he is today. I, for one, am pretty glad. So in part two, Gregor offers 2 tools to guide our choices. And I confess, I've been sharing and teaching one of these tools in every workshop and in every one-on-one consultation since I came across it several years ago. Always give him credit, and it's always well received. It's called Dining by Traffic Light, and I'm not going to tell you what it means. I want you to read the book and find out for yourself. I think you'll find it a really helpful tool. Next, Gregor offers his own daily dozen checklist. It's a guide he personally uses. I think he says it's on his fridge or somewhere posted in his kitchen, and he hopes it will help his readers to begin to incorporate essential foods and nutrients day by day as we develop our own optimal eating lifestyle. Now, in this section, Gregor also busts a few myths and exposes a few holes, and there are more than a few, in our food culture. We take a lot of information for granted. We believe what we hear. I certainly did for years. We believe we can't afford to eat healthy. We believe eating fat will make us fat. We believe that all it takes is less food and more exercise and we'll lose weight. We believe that the FDA and the USDA are looking out for our best interests. Not so fast, sorry. 10 years ago, I had no idea that 3 of Washington's largest lobbying firms reportedly work for the food industry. I wouldn't have blinked when I heard that the Susan G. Komen Foundation partners with KFC in October to create pink buckets for the fried chicken. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a sign of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. Many in our society, and we know this is true, live with a virtual disconnect. A disconnect between what we eat, between the sources that provide what we eat, and between the systems that we think are in place to protect us in our food choices. When it comes to simple eating choices, Gregor offers what he calls a Socratic learning exercise, summed up in 3 words. And I'm going to be using this one too. The 3 words are this: compared to what? Here's what he means. If he's asked if a certain food is healthy, he turns the question and asks the person, compared to what? The example he gives is eggs. Are eggs healthy? Someone asked him. He replied, compared to what? Compared to oatmeal for breakfast? No. Compared to the bacon and sausage that might be on the plate with the eggs for breakfast? Yes. Choosing one food means not choosing another food. And I find part 2 to just be a practical teaching section. Gregor introduces nutrition as a package deal. There might be iron in beef, but what about all the deleterious components? The lard, the dairy hormones, the saturated fats. To quote Gregor, food is a package deal. It was a senior executive, vice president of marketing for Coca-Cola, who under oath described Coca-Cola, I hope you're sitting down, as a nutritious drink because it provides water. Water? Seriously? Why do we support these companies whose bottom line is clearly their only bottom line? Dairy is the #1 source of calcium in America, but it comes with baggage, as Dr. Gregor says. There's no baggage when we get our calcium from leafy greens. There's only other beneficial nutrients: folate, fiber, iron, antioxidants. We would do well to be well read. Page by page, chapter by chapter, Dr. Gregor describes in copious detail everything on his daily dozen list, from beans to berries to beverages. He offers easy to remember tips and always supports his conclusions and recommendations with science-based data. That's for all my science friends out there. But you don't have to take my word for it. Read the book for yourself. Give it as a gift. You will be giving the gift of life. Dr. Gregor and I know we will all die someday. His hope and purpose is that we not die prematurely. His hope and purpose is to empower our lives, our choices, our own agency over our own health. Talk about a gift. As he concludes, he shares this. In 2015, Dr. Kim Williams became president of the American College of Cardiology. He was asked why he adheres to a strictly whole food, plant-based diet. I don't mind dying, Dr. Williams replied. I just don't want it to be my fault. For my money, How Not to Die is a wise and kind and generous PSA. It's a public service announcement. This is not a guy out to make a buck. He's not even out to make a buck from the books he's selling. Every penny from book sales goes to charity. You can take that to the bank. This is a passionate grandson, a health practitioner, a nutrition nerd, and a wellness activist out to save lives, helping you and I learn how not to die. Now, one final word. In his chapter on breast cancer, Dr. Gregor writes this, quote, "In medicine, a cancer diagnosis is considered a teachable moment, when we can motivate a patient to change their lifestyle. By then, though, it may be too late." In the midst of a pandemic, we are in a teachable moment. And as I share with you each month, I hope this is a teachable moment. I believe it is. My hunch is that in the past couple of weeks since we were together, or in the weeks to come before we're together again, you will hear of someone diagnosed with something. Share this book with them. It's not too late. It's not too late for you either. If you're listening to me talk about this book, I hope you hear the hope it offers. True, deep, science-based, evidence-based hope for you and for those that you love. Let's be well read. Let's be well and serve well. Let's make our grandmas proud. I know Michael Gregor made his grandma proud with this book, and he continues to do so with his life dedicated to helping people learn how not to die. Now, I'll be back 2 weeks from today, September 24th. I'll be back with you to share another of Dr. Michael Gregor's writings. I hope you'll join us as we continue to be well read, to be well and serve well. Please reach out. If you have any questions, you can put comments in the comment section. You can private message me. Like the Be Well, Serve Well page. And remember, if you were with us last week, you know there's 2 E's on B, and you know the reason. If not, maybe I'll share that again on September 24th. Also, if you're in the Be Well, Serve Well community already, make sure that you like and follow Story and Song Bookstore Bistro. Thanks, Connor, for helping us make this possible today. And thanks to Mark and Donna and Story and Song for allowing me to partner with you as together we choose to be well read. Bye, everybody.